Well, hello, and I want to welcome my two guests today, Beth D'Angelo, who is a leader in Healing Through Hope. She's also a fitness professional, and maybe she'll touch on some of those things that she does, including a yogi trainer, and just so many things that involve the human body that she relied on after her life-changing experience. And also joined by Bobby Morton, who is a grief dad and also leader at Healing Through Hope. So I'm really, really grateful that the both of you are here with me. And today's topic, we want to talk about certainly life-changing experiences and how they impact the mind, body, and spirit, and what each of you found along that journey of something that happened that really changed your lives, and then what happened that got you slowly out of that. And then at the end, we're going to wrap it up with what you've both created and continue to create now going forward. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thank you, Basia.
So Beth, can we start with you, if you don't mind, filling us in briefly about, what happened and where were you at in your life, and what was this life-changing experience?
Oh, I appreciate the question. I've been very, very blessed in many, many areas of my life. I say that not that I had a real easy life. There's been a lot of divorces. There's been some structure changes, but nothing was like February 21st, 2004, when I got a phone call from my first husband to tell me that there was an accident and that our second son, Shaun, was gone. He died instantly in a snowstorm, and some other details that he wouldn't have been right had he survived that. And I don't think anything prepares you, even if you are an expert in grief and loss, prepares you for the loss of a child. So for me, that was my life-altering experience. I don't know how I breathed. I don't know how I moved during those early days. To tell you the truth, it was almost like an automatic pilot. What I do know now, looking back, you can do amazing things when you're in the state of shock. You can be a super person and overachiever, and you don't even know that's going on. You can also be completely laid flat out. I can't do anything. My situation was I just went into a task force at the very beginning of, okay, we need a memorial. We need to do certain things to pull this together. But that started to unravel very, very quickly at about 18 months in my journey, where I crashed and burned and I hit a bottom. And it was the realization that this wasn't just an event. This was a life-changing trauma that I was going to have to work with, not just a day event. And something that I've been aware of is that I always say there's the event and then there's the after. And the after affects in so many different ways. It affects you spiritually. It may expand you, or it may totally implode on you. Those things that you thought were there, if you just were a good person, you wouldn't have bad things happen. So a lot of false narratives. But it also hits financially, spiritually, financially, physically, emotionally. My situation is I ended up being in my doctor's office about every week and a half with something with my body that went out. Was my eyesight. I went and got it checked. That was fine. The minute I got that checked and it was fine, I didn't have eye problems. I had what I call phantom pains. They were real, but whenever I would go in for my knee, my back, my ankles, it was all physical. My stomach, the stiffness in my neck, the shoulders, they couldn't find a reason. And it was interesting that every time I went in and they did these tests, the test came back, nothing's wrong. And my symptoms would dissipate at the same time. What I learned, this is just my experience, is that when my heart was so broken It was so full of the emotional shield was so heavy that my physical body took over and said, we'll carry some of that burden with us. Let us help you with that broken heart.
Mm.
So that was kind of the beginning of my life-changing event.
Oh my gosh, I'm listening to you, and there are so many things that I can relate to, regarding those early days and going into the doctor and not having, having symptoms and then tests and nothing showing that there's anything wrong, and how frightening that is. It's like you already feel like you're losing your mind. Like, how am I ever going to get through this? And then you're physically breaking down and going to see a professional, and they're saying, well, go home and get some rest. And and not a bad direction. Certainly, rest is really helpful if you can.
If you can.
Yeah, if you can.
The one thing that I'm just going to pull this off of this article that I was reading just today, and it gave I'm just going to read it verbatim. When you're grieving, a flood of neurochemicals and hormones dance around in your head, and that can be a disruption in your hormones that results in specific symptoms such as disturbed sleep, loss of appetite, fatigue, anxiety, and the brain function takes a big hit. And there's something called the broken heart syndrome. I don't know if the listeners have ever heard that, but it mimics a heart attack. It has the same signs of a heart attack, but it's brought on by a very stressful event that has happened. But it also can be brought on by your perception that it was a stressful event. So it could be just your body's way of protecting itself by dropping you, trying to bring you down, to get your attention because you're experiencing elevated emotions.
For sure. Yeah. And that the body reorganizes itself so that it can take care of basic functions, basic needs. And then the other things aren't being taken care of, like cells regenerating and healing and that kind of thing, because all the energy is gone elsewhere to manage the trauma. So I want to bring Bobby in here and to share your story, if you would, Bobby, about your life-changing experience and what happened, and then what happened to you, mind, body, spirit. And then we'll get back to talking about, what we all did to get through this.
Sure. I had a similar experience to Beth. I received a phone call. It was from the hospital that was 2 hours away, that I should get there as soon as possible, that my son was there. No information, just get there as soon as possible. I didn't have a good feeling for the entire drive. Don't know how I drove there. And when we arrived, Jared had passed. He had already passed before they called me. That was almost 6 years ago. My mind and body went into immediate shock. I've always been clear of mind, able to act on impulse, instinct, gut feeling. I kind of lost all that. My blood pressure went through the roof. I wasn't having phantom symptoms. I was having real symptoms. My blood pressure spiked. I had anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. I had to go see my doctor probably within the first few days. I went on blood pressure medication for the first time in my life. My blood pressure was up to something like 180 over 115 or something. And so he was able to bring that down with blood pressure medication and also anxiety medication. I think our bodies go into shock to protect us from dying. I think that the human body could not survive that type of shock if our minds didn't protect us. So I think I kind of went into a fog. I was running, like Beth said, on autopilot. You know, made the funeral arrangements, made all that happen. I knew where Jared was. I was getting signs from him immediately. But it was me traumatized, missing the physical part of him, and my body was not functioning uh, properly at all. So I had to go on sleeping medication after a couple of weeks because I just didn't sleep. I was up all night writing a book, putting together pictures, um, stuff like that. When I was about 4 months out, I was up on the roof on a ladder, cleaning snow off the roof. I uh, shouldn't have been up there because I was in a fog, and I fell off the ladder and shattered my femur. Ended up in the hospital with the broken femur. I had already shattered the bottom part of my leg in a skiing accident. So at that point, I knew I was going to need a knee replacement, which I had a few months later. A couple of months after I shattered my femur, my left eye, the retina tore, and I had to have an emergency laser done. A week later, it tore again, so I had to have another emergency laser done. So I had a lot of physical things going on, and at the same time, I was fighting a police department that was corrupt and did not investigate my son's death, and that too was increasing the anxiety, and it really drove me to want to find justice. And I heard Beth mention she was 18 months out. It was about 19 months out for me that I realized that fighting that losing battle against the police department, there is such a thing as a blue wall that gets built. I went all the way to the Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island and was getting nowhere, and it was killing me. So I had to give that up. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I had to do it for myself if I was going to survive. And shortly after that, I found hope. And with finding hope, the healing part of the grief journey started for me. And the blood pressure came down on its own. The anxiety came down, and I was able to sleep. So it was. And the whole time Jared was with me, bringing me signs. I knew where he was. He was looking over me, and but it was
Bobby,
me
I'm going
grieving
to
the
have to
physical
interrupt you
loss.
for a second
Sure.
because you've been frozen for a while. Your
Oh,
voice,
okay.
your audio is good, but I'm so sorry. I'm going to stop recording for a second. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for that. We did have a little bit of a technical thing go on there, and but we're back, and I'm grateful for your story as well, and talking about the shock of it all. And I've got to tag in on both of your stories, because when you both talked about that phone call, boy, that is true for when my stepson passed in 1993, and also when my son Richard passed in 2014. That phone call, and you just know, oh my gosh, as much as I told myself with Logan, for example, that no, it's not him. He's not one of the ones that died on the train as we're driving to the location of this train accident. I kept telling my husband, no, it's not him. It's not him. It's not him. Really, it's not him. And my husband knew. He felt it inside of himself. He felt heart-wrenching pain inside of himself. And I was in denial, but it was just so bad. And then similarly, when I got a call about Rich, I was on the East Coast, I lived out here on the West Coast, and my daughter-in-law called me and said that I've got to come right away. It's not, something has happened with Rich. She didn't have any information to share with me. And my body began to tremble. It was as if I had Parkinson's disease. And I was staying with a friend who, during my visit in New York, and I had to wake her up. And I was trembling and my voice was shaking. And I was that way until I got on a plane. I can't imagine how I looked in the airport. I can't imagine that, as I recall, no one asked me anything about anything. And I got on that plane and I flew back to the West Coast. And I don't have a memory of it. I have a memory of my friend. I remember a memory of her driving me to the airport. And then that's it until I landed. So that you were talking about how the body, the brain protects us from this overwhelming experience and shuts out memory, shuts it down. So it's not actually something that you can remember because you couldn't have survived.
Right.
So let's move on to the next part of like what helped. What helped in during that time in the early days, and then a little bit further on. What helped each of you to start like back into your life in some way, or to understand what is going to happen to my life from there?
Do you want to go, Bobby?
Sure. I'll be very brief. I had a meditation practice when I was in my late teens and early 20s that I had put on hold. So I went back into meditation and breath work. I walked a lot. I'm very fortunate that I live in an area where there's a lot of trails through the woods. There's a lot of ponds. I have the ocean right down the street. So I have a lot of nice places that I can walk and kind of stay by myself. I like doing moving meditations as well. So that helped me. I think exercise helped me to, to lower my anxiety level and all that. And then also helping other people. I had been a compassionate friends chapter leader like you, Basia, for 3 years. I was doing that on Cape Cod, and then I was with an online group, Living with Hope, and now Beth and I and our other partner, Debbie Byron, run Healing Through Hope, and we've been doing that now for 2.5 years. So I believe that the energy that you put out comes back tenfold, and it helps you to heal and all that. So, if you want to go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, some of the things that helped me right out of the gate was just simple. I had a job that I had to show up at a resort, and I had to be on a microphone, and I needed to lead people who were on vacation through spinning classes and strength classes and aqua fitness and Pilates, personal training and yoga. And I know this to this day, that had I not had that particular job, I would not be here. I would not have had enough reason to get up out of bed. But I did. I showed up, I put my mic on, and I just talked myself into, you have 8 hours of a vacation today. And then I would cry when I punched out, go to my car, and I would do that over and over. But I was also I was padded by a homeowner base at where I work, and returning guests who, when they started to find out that I lost Shaun, there was just beautiful embrace of words and comfort. I'd like to say I'm one of the many that had an outreach that was really healthy for me. Some of the things that really drove me to not wanting to check myself out of this life was music. My playlists were deliberate in what I was doing for my career, but I also made every year a CD of songs that Shaun loved, and I would mass produce those, and I would give those to my family. I'd mail them out to the family. But I did, because I'm in fitness, I didn't need to walk more. But I found that I had a voice that I never knew I had, and that's through writing. I've never taken a course in writing, but the one thing that I could do, I started out with just journaling, and it was almost like I was just standing with fists. Life gave me this experience. It's not going to take me down without a fight. I'm going to put down on paper how I feel, my thoughts, that if I were to leave this earth anytime soon, I was leaving a legacy, that there was a boy that was deeply loved by his mother. And some of these pieces that I write, I truly don't know where they come from, because they're not coming from me. They're being downloaded, that I do believe, by our children. I've always been very spiritual, so I don't get caught up in dogma. And so I can say very boldly, didn't come from me. It came from a source, and the source is what connected me to my child. I knew immediately that I couldn't, Bobby has said this before in his story, that I couldn't live in this depression, and I was self-medicating with alcohol at that time. I would like to say I was the dainty drinker. No, I was trying to numb out. And when I realized that all that was doing was making me gain weight, I had to find a way to connect with my son. And so my writing and music were the two big things. And then I started reaching out to another parent, not because I needed the connection. I wanted them to feel coddled and patted by compassion and caring from another parent who has had that similar experience of a child who's gone. And again, the words that come out of my mouth they belong to someone else. I speak this language very smoothly. And my mom said, where are you getting this inspiration? And I said, I don't know. I just learned how to speak angel. So that's what I call it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Wow.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, Shaun left his earth suit 16 and a half years ago. So I'm down this journey a little further than the two of you. But one thing that I jumped into was Shaun guided me to get my certification in wellness coaching. Shaun guided me to sign up to be a yoga teacher. So I did yoga teacher training through Hawaiian Healing Yoga here on the Big Island. And what's behind me is it launched me into sound healing. That is my newest gong, and it's a symphonic gong. So I do sound healing or sound bath, sacred sound healing, using the vibration of the different tones to just help people, even if they don't believe in the science, all they have to do is lay down and just let the vibration and the music just bathe them. And it's a very magical experience. If you haven't done a sound bath, look one up and try to get that in.
That's so beautiful. Yes, I have partaken in that, and it is just, I love that the word is bath, sound bath, because it just fills you and washes over you. It's so beautiful. So a lot of what you're talking about, you, Beth, you had some things in place already regarding physicality. You were very physical. And then this happened, and then but now you've expanded that out. And when you say that Shaun is with you, how does it come up for you that, oh, well, I'm going to move into this area and he's with me?
I've learned to really trust my solar plexus, my gut, and I've connected that to my heart. And I don't have a broken heart anymore. I did. It was shattered to pieces for many, many years. And I changed and shifted the way I was looking at my loss because my physical body was taking a bigger hit than necessary. And I needed to reconstruct and reframe some of the words I was saying to myself. So some of the things that shifted that bring Shaun's presence stronger than his absence is he didn't die. He just left his earth suit. His earth suit was so wounded, he couldn't get back in it. There's no way that kid could get back in his vessel, in his container. So when I looked at it that way, it was like, God, you know, bless his heart. He's free from that. He was so stinking proud of me that part of my story is he called me the day before he died because it was my birthday. I was 46 years old, and he told me, I love you, Mom. And I'm going to go ice fishing the next day. And his last birthday gift to me was I'm sponsoring a little girl in Africa. Because I don't have a daughter, he decided to find me a daughter. And so I really carried the connection of this boy as I wrote the check out to the Children's Fund every month, my birthday gift, that he left so many things in place for me to discover, that he was not going to be here to give this to me, but he left this gift, birthday gift. I also, just another thing that really was a big thing is he took pictures of his dorm room so I could see what his college room looked like, because when I got there, everything was stripped down and put into boxes, and it just crushed my heart. I thought a mother should be able to pack her son's belongings, and yet there was a roll of undeveloped film, and Shaun had taken a picture of his door of his closets open. I got to see his clothes, his bed was made, his desk. So when I say Shaun is with me, I don't believe that there's ever a severing of that connection between a parent and a child. That love expanded more inside of me. It didn't diminish because he wasn't here. It expanded more, and it was more about my loss than his. And I had to realize that his life, our children's lives, changed at that moment of their last breath, just as our lives changed at the moment we knew that they were no longer here.
That's beautiful.
It's a two-way street, that Shaun couldn't get out of that vehicle. His life, he's probably, what happened? Wow. And I'm sure before that hit, before the head-on, was totally horror for him. But I do think that there's the thing that shuts down, that when you know that there's an emergency coming, it's like our shock being here. I think the same thing happens to our children. And that cushioned the horror part of, did they suffer? And I just believe more of a presence. I wrap myself around the presence of him, understanding there's an absence, but really leaning into, what do you want me to do now, Shaun? Guide me, bring me someone else, drop a song in, give me the words.
Yeah. I feel that as well with my sons bringing people into my life and feeling that energy. And it's certainly up to us to do whatever we're going to do with that. But I'm inspired so often, and it's a gift to feel inspiration is a gift. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm going to act on it. Because it deserves that inspiration deserves action so that it can play itself out. And I feel them in both of those areas of the inspiration and also in the action. Like, okay, how are we going to do this one?
I think there's an honoring.
And Jared does the same thing for me. Like you mentioned, Basia, he brings me people. And I meet people in the strangest ways. It seems like every time I take a flight on an airplane, there's if I move a seat or whatever, there's a bereaved parent that's sitting beside me. And I mean, the three of us are all connected because of our children in spirit. And I I too, like Beth, don't believe that death exists. I believe that, that life continues on. It's just a different relationship that we have with our children in spirit. And if we're open and aware and believe that that relationship continues, and that helps us heal spiritually as well. So.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think just to get back a little bit to the ways that we heal and the ways that shift the energy, because what we're talking about is energy. You have to be, so you're cracked open, you're shattered, but that's not necessarily an open energy. You're cracked open, but it's not necessarily that energy that you can let in possibilities. It takes some time sometimes for people to be able to be aware of oh, those signs or those symbols or those things that help them along the way. And certainly raising energy is what? It's what we put into our bodies. It's what happens to our bodies. It's what we surround ourselves with. Like Beth, you were talking about sound and sound bath and music. Give me some music to listen to. So that's all about energy and vibration and treating ourselves in the best way that we can, given the circumstances. Because you did mention that, Beth, you mentioned that this kind of thing affects us, mind, body, spirit, but also financially, also community. Sometimes people lose family. They lose family members by choice. Those people leave by choice. So there can be all these other additional losses that happen that are so compounding the original loss. So how do we get through that, but to treat ourselves with love and respect and acknowledging that we can't control and other people's behavior, and that we have our journey now, the journey of what our life change is about. So what do you both see now from this perspective and this many years out? Bobby, you and I are about the same amount of time out from Rich passing, and Beth, you and I are about the same time out with Logan passing. So those experiences are different, but they're ongoing. You're both creating going forward. So what do you see in the future for building out of this?
Go ahead, Beth.
I see. Are you talking about what personally?
Yeah.
Um, I have a dream vision board. Kelly Ray Roberts is a artist, and she coined the phrase possibilitarian. It's her word, and I see having I'm just going to say it. It's going to manifest now. Is having a gathering place somewhere on the mainland that is another healing place, and that people will want to come and walk our labyrinth. They're going to want to come and do journaling and learn how to write their story. They're going to want to do movement. So it's going to be moving meditation, almost like a Canyon Ranch, but downscale, very organic. I have 3 books that I need to finish writing and actually pursue maybe publishing them, not just keeping them in a binder. And I will always continue to reach out to another. That's just part of who I am. I was, before Shaun died, was a connector. I plan on being a connector till my last breath. I'm in the middle of a lot of different transitions. 2020 isn't just COVID-19. There's other big transitions. They're not comfortable, but they're giving me the opportunity to look beyond what I thought I could look beyond. And I have my outlook is very, very hopeful, and it is involving others. It is involving music. It is involving a healing component and teaching breath work and some of the simple things that when you're first in grief or midway, you know, what was a midway? There's early grief, and then there's more seasoned grievers. That having offering a possibility of a new language. I want to teach that new language, that you can hold your story and hold your container differently. The story will never change. The details won't change. But what does change is the way you're going to hold it, the way you're going to tell your story. And that is, in my future, is expanding on teaching tools for me and for those people who will be crossing my path.
That's beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I have a feeling that I'll see you on the mainland somewhere in that happening. Oh my gosh, it sounds fabulous. Really, such a clean, open heart. You know, so beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
beautiful. And Bobby.
Yeah, I kind of foresee the same type of thing. With Healing Through Hope, we've been expanding that as and growing it. We've started it a new branch to it called Sacred Journey Mission, which is open to everyone that wants to take back life on life's terms. Any type of trauma, whether it's loss of spouse, child, parent, job, whatever, because we all inevitably in this lifetime face some sort of trauma that breaks us open. And Basia, you were talking about being broken open. Well, having a crack or being broken open also lets in the light. It allows the light to come in, and I find the light to be hope. So I want to keep spreading seeds of hope, because I know that's what brought me back. I did not believe I was going to survive Jared's death, and now I'm thriving. So I foresee just building on what we're doing now, and expanding it, and bringing hope to everybody that's suffered trauma, that grief and joy coexist in the human heart. I'm living proof of that. So.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What I can speak to at this point in my journey, so it's coming up on 6 years that Rich has been gone. And one thing that gives me a lot of pleasure and joy is to help parents so far, mostly parents, but people that are going through major changes, to take care of their health, to help their bodies to eliminate toxins from the body, the residue from the shock that we're talking about, to cleanse the body, to fuel it with really proper nutrition. So that feels like a real piece of the puzzle. Like you, Beth, I was real active before Rich passed, but then my body it just slowed down, and I just attributed it to aging. And I am getting older, certainly, but I attributed it to what I had heard people saying, that, oh, well, you know, it's just that's what comes with age, aches and pains, and loss of memory, and things like that. That once I aligned my body nutritionally, that was different. My experience was different, that it's not going that rapidly. So that gives me a lot of pleasure. And then also to be coaching people that are in this journey that need one-on-one coaching. So that's where I find my call as well. But now there's this new thing that's happening with these YouTube videos, and I'm expanding beyond people that have experienced the loss of a child, but in other life-changing experiences, to provide hope, you know, to provide, okay, these people survived, you know, these people survived that, their experiences, and they're here to tell their story. So I really appreciate you being with me today, and look forward to being in touch with you in the future. I'm going to stop the recording for now, and really great to be with you.